Startup Street. I'm Arundhati Ramanan, and with me, as always, in the Mumbai studio is Shruti Mishra. These are the top headlines from the startup world. Byju's moves NCLAT to challenge NCLT insolvency order. On July 16th, NCLT Bengaluru had admitted BCCI's plea against Byju's to initiate insolvency proceedings against the company. Byju's proposes to settle a 158 crore rupee claim within a month. NCLAT likely to hear the matter on July 22nd.
Collective Artists Network acquires Gallery 5, an AI-driven influencer marketing platform. This acquisition aims to enhance the firm's creator and content ecosystem with advanced AI solutions. Last week, Collective Artists Network acquired Terribly Tiny Tales, a flash fiction platform.
Gen Z-focused clothing brand New Me has raised $18 million in its Series A round, led by Accel, with participation from existing investors, including Fireside Ventures and AUM Ventures. New Me will use funds to expand its omni-channel presence.
EdTech startup Byte has raised $5.9 million in Series A funding round, led by Kalari, along with the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation. The funds will be used for team expansion, product development, and outreach to more colleges and universities.
The Supreme Court defers hearing on the pleas filed by gaming companies against GST notices to July 31st. 30 petitions have been filed by real money gaming companies against the demand of over 1.5 lakh crore, calculated at 28% on the face value of bets.
Hello and welcome to our Startup Street budget special. From scrapping angel tax to simplifying and streamlining taxation norms, launching schemes to boost domestic funds, especially at a time when foreign investments have taken a huge hit. India's startup ecosystem is pinning high hopes from the Union Budget 2024. So we decided to bring you a startup wish list. What does India's startup ecosystem want?
To tell you just that, today we bring you founders who are building for Bharat, the EV space, and the growth of private space tech, an industry that's coming into its own. So without further ado, Shruti, let's start with our focus on the rural economy, or the companies that we essentially say are building for Bharat at this point.
Absolutely, Arundhati. India has largely been an agrarian economy where supply chains have been broken and continue to be so in large parts of the country. Land ownership is majorly marginal, and the role of technology has been fairly recent. However, we've seen startups coming in and there have been significant changes. In fact, in Budget 2023-24, the Finance Minister announced a bunch of new initiatives to empower the growth of data-led farming, which could improve farm output and double farmer incomes. To tell us what the Agri-tech or the rural economy builders expect from this year's budget, joining us now are Shashank Kumar, the co-founder of The Heart, and Tausif Khan, the co-founder and CEO of Gramophone. Shashank and Tausif, welcome to Startup Street. Shashank, let me start with you. The Heart is a business to farmers platform. Like you say, beej se bazaar tak. You offer a complete range of agricultural services to farmers. As we approach the 2024 Union Budget, are you anticipating a sharper focus on artificial intelligence, machine learning, and IoT technologies? What is your big ask?
Hey, Shruti, thanks for having me. And I think the first expectation is the continuity of the focus on AI, ML, the overall technology, and eventually the last mile digitization at a farmer level. The Heart has always been a big believer of last mile digitization, whether it's the farmers and their respective land parcels. And in addition to the continuity, if I just add, I expect definitely the sharper focus around these things, and specifically around the integration of your LLMs and the new version of GPTs in form of the digital public goods. And the reason why, because as we all know that that because of the digitization, on the success of digitization, eventually the better agri input solutions, the financing to the farmers, the insurance to the farmers, and all those things basically will improve, which is the very high need of the Indian farmers. And currently, because all these things are highly underpenetrated.
Absolutely.
But more importantly, I would also expect the another element, which is the adoption. So there has to be certain incentives directly for the farmers toward the usage of all these applications, which will be developed over next few years or so.
Sure. All right, let me quickly go across to Tausif now. Gramophone is an intelligent farming platform for farmers in India. Tausif, what are your budget expectations? What is it that you want the finance minister to address that is crucial for a thriving rural economy?
Hi, thanks Shruti for having me on the show. I think some of the aspects of it Shashank touched. One of the critical needs, and at least for the last 10 years being in this sector, is access to credit in the entire ecosystem. That changes a lot of things, gives a lot of power to the farmers. I think a lot of decisions from the farming point of view are actually driven by where the farmers are getting credit from, and currently the rate at which informal market works anywhere between 24 to 60% actually a lot of times. That is one aspect. If there is incentivization plus more data-backed decisions which are done by even for priority sector lending through public banks, RRBs plus other NBFCs, I think that is one thing which will have a huge impact on decision making of the farmers. When we are talking about adoption of digital services, I think this one thing incentivizes people, plus disincentivizes wrong decision making, because product purchase for inputs is actually mostly on credit. And once this step is taken and there is more adoption, I think that will have a huge impact. Secondly, there has been a lot of talk plus work also started on Agri-tech. That is one thing which will be a huge impact on the adoption of things. Again, I am also touching more on the adoption part, because I think there is a lot of digital penetration that has already happened, but adoption is still a little away or a little distant, which we are seeing. It can be accelerated by these 2-3 things in a much more.
Right, Tausif. So adoption there is actually crucial. But Shashank, coming back to you, if you could tell us, quickly, let's talk about enhancing storage infrastructure in this sector, right? What is the ask there? What can be done to deliver significant benefits for farmers, agriculture machine owners, and OEMs alike?
Also, I think there has been a number of initiatives, historically taken in this space, Arundhati, and that's the reason why agriculture has been one of the major drivers of Indian economy in last couple of years, and specifically because on the success of infrastructure, we have seen the boost in export, right? I mean, even at Dehat, at this point of time, I think we have started exporting directly to more than 30 countries. Overall, because of the success of infrastructure, every day we are handling more than 7,000 tonnage of farm produce aggregation, but still huge scope of going deeper and deeper. So I think ask here is that the ongoing initiative and thought of developing crop clusters, which is one district, one crop initiative in form of PPP, ABCD initiative of government. But here I think that crop cluster has to be linked with the right post-harvest infrastructure for that respective crop, so that basically those infrastructure can further enhance the overall agri-export, the size, from India, Arundhati.
Absolutely. And Tausif, in 30 seconds, if you could tell us, a clear regulatory framework to encourage innovation while ensuring data privacy and security is crucial for the sector's growth, right? So your view on this?
So I think on these two things, changes in the regulatory policies basically disturb the decision making of people. The policies on export, I think there is a challenge of managing inflation, but I think clear policies over there would lead to actually a lot of innovation. Plus, I think the policies on drone policy plus incentivization of investment in agriculture. There is a recent development around Agri-Sure 750 crore fund, more incentivization in terms of maybe tax breaks or capital gains. These are some of the things that would help innovation, plus also adoption. Again, I'll touch that point.
All right. Tausif and Shashank, we've completely run out of time, but many thanks for joining us on Startup Street, and thank you so much for taking us through the big ask from your sector for the Union Budget 2024. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, from decoding what is needed for Bharat to flourish, let's shift focus to India's big EV push, Arundhati.
Absolutely. That's right, Shruti. There has been a big push for the EV sector from the government. And the biggest ask today is, will there be a FAME 3 policy this budget? But what else is on top of the budget wish list? We are joined by Pulkit Khurana, the co-founder of Battery Smart, and Saurav Kumar, the co-founder of Euler Motors. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Saurav, let me start with you. The budget is right around the corner. One of the main things on the mind of every electric vehicle player is the FAME scheme. FAME 2 expired on March 31st of this year. There is a hope of another edition of this, but reports say that four-wheelers may not be included, right? So what's the expectation here, and how crucial would this be for the sector?
So first of all, thanks for having me. So yes, I think the budget is around the corner. We are looking forward to hearing what it means for electric vehicle OEM. Before I answer the question, I just have one thought overall. Whether you put any amount of subsidy, whether for four-wheeler, three-wheeler, two-wheeler, I think what is important is the consistency part and the tenure of it. Having something for a year and then or 4 months and then having another scheme, that sometimes disrupts the overall motion. So I think what is more important is the tenure. And I think even if it's a smaller quantum, it's okay as long as you have it for the longer period. If subsidies are available for, let's just say, four-wheeler, it will definitely help. Given a commercial OEM that we are, I think what we have seen is the rate of adoption significantly changes if you can improve the cost of acquisition, which is the what down payment or what is the first payment that a customer will pay to buy a vehicle. So in that sense, I think electric vehicle in general should be, as a sector, should be looked from as a totality, not just one or two segment. Obviously, what we have seen is in two-wheeler and three-wheeler, the subsidies has done significantly, push the overall adoption of these vehicles in the market. But at the same time, I think like I said, the tenor and the consistency is much more important than the amount or consideration itself.
So you're saying like a smaller amount is fine, but it needs to be there for a longer period of time to boost this. But like Saurav also pointed out, it also has to benefit the entire EV ecosystem, right? And Pulkit, if I could bring you in here, because you're coming from a different perspective, being on the battery side of things, there have been talks or other opinions of wanting the battery ecosystem to be given more importance when it comes to subsidies or even under the FAME scheme in a bid to boost sales of EVs, right? So what's your expectation on this front?
So, thanks, Arundhati, for having Battery Smart on the show again. I think it is not about more importance. Currently, batteries are not part of the subsidy framework at all. And the request from the industry has been to at least create a level playing field. To simplify that for the viewers here is that if you buy a fixed battery vehicle, there is some subsidy. While Saurav is right, it has been inconsistent and going up and down. But if you buy a vehicle without a battery, there is no subsidy available today, right? So what that does is it is against swapping, and it's not really favoring swapping. And that is what we have been requesting, that it needs to be corrected and a level playing field should exist. This would also hamper a user who hits end of life on the battery, right? So if you have bought a EV already, say 3 or 4 years ago, and you're looking to replace your battery, you'll end up paying 18% GST when you replace your battery, right? So I think it's more of an oversight, but also from a subsidy framework, someone buying a vehicle separately and a battery separately should be part of the framework of subsidy. Whether the end user gets it or a battery OEM or a swapping operator gets it is completely government's call, depending on how they want to implement it. But there has to be a equal view with which the government sees a fixed battery vehicle and a swappable battery vehicle, because both of them are EV. And given the infrastructure constraints of the country, I think swapping can definitely help boost EV adoption, if nothing else.
So there is a need for a level playing field. This is Shruti quickly stepping in. Saurav, I want to ask you my next question. There's been a call to want the PLI scheme to be more inclusive for startups. Where is the current PLI, falling short, and what do you think will help it become a game changer? Will a more inclusive PLI do the trick?
So I think government has done, I would say, phenomenal work with the FAME subsidy, the lowering of GST and the PLI scheme. I think all of these, the intention and what it has done for the country in terms of EV adoption is really great. Similar, I would say, if I look at the PLI scheme as well, I would say that, see, while majority of the beneficiary of today PLI scheme has been very, very big OEMs or startup that has like very good, let's just say, balance sheet capital, who can, be able to, let's just say, become a champion OEM in the future. But I think alongside capital, there are also a lot of startup which has, let's just say, like Euler, which has enough capital, also the right intention to become a global champion in the future. I believe that similar to what Pulkit was saying, there should be a level playing field for startups like us as well, where we have been able to significantly, let's just say, help electrify the three-wheeler cargo segment. And we believe that we can build vehicles from India for the global market. And we do feel that while capital is important, your right intent, and this is the only business that we are in. So we are focused and making sure that the products from India actually go and play on that international market. So if PLI has certain benefit or certain allocation to startup like us, I think it will do further wonderful job that earlier PLI has done.
Pulkit, coming to you quickly, and we have only the last 30 seconds to go. We've discussed FAME and PLI, but there has also been a call for the government to do more when it comes to R&D and investing in infra. What other policy measures could bring some cheer to help with faster adoption of electric vehicles in the country, especially at a time when global sales are falling? Pulkit, if you could quickly answer that.
I think a low-hanging fruit which government has not yet adopted is bringing EVs under priority sector lending. This is a capital-intensive, infrastructure-driven business, and having enough debt pools of capital open up for this sector, either to invest in charging infra, on manufacturing side, on even procurement of batteries, vehicles, etc. All of that would really boost this sector and would also help a lot of lenders deploy capital more efficiently. It's a much easier thing to do for the government and much awaited.
All right, Pulkit and Saurav, thank you so much for joining us on the show and, sort of highlighting what exactly the EV sector needs to, make it globally competitive at this point. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks, Arvind.
And with that, it's time for us to head into a short break. But coming up, we've told you what agri-tech and EV startups want from this budget. It's time to turn the spotlight to India's space sector and what is needed to give it a boost to make it globally competitive. Stay tuned for that.
Welcome back to our special edition of Startup Street, where we're focusing on what startups want from this year's budget. And today, India's space tech startups are looking forward to some important policy tweaks, an increase in budgetary allocation and a clear FDI policy in the upcoming budget. Industry players are also hoping that the finance minister would announce a PLI scheme for manufacturing space-grade components, similar to those launched for other sectors. So what does the sector need to give it the right kind of boost for its next leg of growth? I'm now joined by Urvashi Dal, the VP Finance of Bellatrix Aerospace. Urvashi, thank you so much for joining Shruti and me on the show today. While the government has increased support for ISRO and InSpace over the last few years, the allocation has always been around that 13,000 crore rupee mark, right? Do you hope to see an increased allocation in this year's budget? How important will it be? How important will this increase be for the sector?
Thank you so much for having us here and giving Bellatrix Aerospace this opportunity. Firstly, before answering that, I think, like you rightly said, the support we really appreciate and are very grateful for the government support to ISRO, space industry, and InSpace. And while we have seen 2 to 4% of growth in the budget, we really expect like a double-digit percentage growth this time, both in terms of space budget and science and technology. This is really important more than important, I think it's an investment for the nation in the longer run, where we say we are self-reliant, make in India. This will boost that further.
Okay. Urvashi, this is Shruti quickly stepping in. While the government has allowed 100% FDI into some sub-segments in the space sector, the sector still requires the government to be its biggest customer in a bid to boost India's private space tech. Is this the big ask? What are your expectations for the sector this budget?
Definitely not the big ask. I think the industry is wanting the government to be the direct customer through ISRO, through InSpace, or through the DevSpace initiative by the defense sector. And similar practices are seen by NASA and ESA. I think if I have to give the case study example of SpaceX, then why is SpaceX a multi-billion-dollar company today is all because of government and NASA's support in terms of giving them technology, in terms of giving them funds for even commercial orders, for giving them their launch pads and everything. So that being the case study, I definitely don't think it's a big ask. And we really believe that the government will do this. In fact, if I have to tell you that the government has come up with a deep tech fund corpus of 1 lakh crore, which just needs a push to the VC. So you know that the startup companies are from 1 in 2014 to 189 in 2023. So we just need more funding. So we just need that push from the government through this deep tech fund.
Absolutely. So more funding is like the big ask right now from the government for that next leg of growth, right? But when it comes to manufacturing, reductions in taxes across space tech activities, including more support for greenfield projects and a dedicated production-linked incentive plan for manufacturing of space-grade components is another ask, right? So will PLI be the big game changer?
PLI has historically been the big game changer. We have all noticed the drone industry growing with the PLI. I mean, you see 500 plus small scale companies, few listed entities in the drone space. So I don't think I need to say that it'll be a change. It'll definitely be a change. It'll attract more investments. It'll have people, it'll give companies motivation to set up their production facilities as well.
All right, Urvashi, before we let you go, one final question. Where is the space tech industry currently at? Are we in the building phase, R&D phase, or have we collectively reached a valid business to go to market stage? And how far is profitability since the investments are high and turnarounds are long?
Okay, I'll answer it in 2 phases maybe. In terms of technology prowess, I think India's got some top 10, top 20 space companies which have finished their R&D space and are ready to go commercialize. And maybe for those, the ask is, easier exemptions in import duty and easier clearance rules for go to market globally, since the global market is still there to tap. So that's one. And second, in terms of break even, yes, we do understand that space companies have longer gestation periods, but the top 20 should be 2 years away from breaking even. And the others are also, the way technology is growing and the way people are, and the government is supporting the private sector, I think it's just some years down the lane, we'll be talking again after being profitable.
So 2 years for the top 20 to turn profitable, as long as the government gives that right boost for the sector, right? So all right, Urvashi, thank you so much for joining us on the show and outlining what you expect from Budget 2024.
Thank you so much.
From space tech, let's move on to drones. So what do drone manufacturers hope for? CNBC-TV18's Danish Anand reports that easier access to financial support and a boost to local component manufacturing are just a few of the items on their wish list. Take a look.
India's drone industry is a sunrise sector, With its vast array of use cases, both in the arena of civilian use and national security, the sector has received quite a bit of attention over the last 3-4 years. Industry hopes this will continue in the years to come, starting with an extension to the 120 crore rupees production-linked incentive scheme that was launched in FY22 and ended in FY24.
There are about 400 plus startups that have come in the ecosystem. The extension of the PLI scheme will ensure that more companies can participate and can essentially take benefit of the scheme. And essentially, not like many other schemes, but in the drone PLI scheme, this scheme directly helps us increase indigenization and invest in, the entire fight against some of our friendly neighbors.
Industry also argues that making India a global drone hub by 2030 will require huge investments in research and development, and any financial aid will come in handy. Some players add that an extended PLI scheme alone may not be enough, and that the sector will have to grow by leaps and bounds if India is to accelerate the use of this technology in building and strengthening its national security arsenal.
The kind of size of commitments the companies are trying to make and the increase in developmental opportunities happening, it will be great to get a support from the government side, wherein upfront investments on the R&D could be invested or supported by the government. It will be great if government makes this technology as part of the overall governance and security framework. If in case government makes this technology as a mandate for our local infrastructure and make them as part of our local governance infrastructure, I think that will help penetrate this technology to an extent.
Higher drone adoption, whether for defense or for civilian use, will mean cost effectiveness, and that means a local component manufacturing ecosystem and supply chain that will increase localization without compromising on quality. A separate R&D fund, industry says, will help in making this a reality.
There has to be a major focus on developing our own domestic component and tier 2 supplier ecosystem, which is why we require a R&D fund. There are many schemes that the government is announcing, so we believe that one of the budget demands would be that some of the R&D funds that are being earmarked, there should be some special focus on drone components especially.
Industry is also asking for a simpler and less burdensome tax structure to give the sector, which is teeming with startups, stability and predictability.
Drone industry being a very nascent industry, there is a need for a lot of hand-holding in terms of these HSN codes, import duties and GST rates, so that whatever may be written in the policy is very clearly understood through clarifications and capacity building workshops to the industry.
Extension of the PLI scheme, a research and development fund for drone components, and simplification of the tax regime. Well, India's drone manufacturers feel that if these three things come through in Budget 2024, then the industry is all set to take it to the skies with less turbulence, and the path of becoming a global drone hub by 2030 can be met with less headwinds and with less crosswinds. In New Delhi, with video journalists Akhilesh Verma and Lakshman Singh, this is Danish Anand for CNBC-TV18.
And with that, it is a wrap on our special edition of Startup Street. From Shruti and me, goodbye and many thanks for watching. Stay tuned. More news and updates continue on the other side.